I look down, look at something else, and next thing you know, good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 21st of March. So as we're into almost the last full week of March, let's have a look and see what news, what impact, high impact news, if any, that we've got coming up today. And the answer is absolutely zilch. In fact, we may still be running. A Japanese bank holiday will still be running. Aside of that, it's really a quite old week, and certainly a quiet start to the week with nothing today, nothing tomorrow of any impact or potential impact in normal circumstances anyway. We then run into inflation on Wednesday, so we've got some movement or potential movement later in the week, particularly with the Swiss National Bank. They're reporting, but it's yeah. It's a quiet week in terms of high impact news. There are speakers, and I think that's what will move the markets more than anything else. Morning, Mark. So, just noticing. Right, let's have a look through the currencies then. And we're in this. I did a little update yesterday afternoon, stroke evening, and look at these markets. I'm sort of looking at this euro dollar and thinking about last week's US update from the FOMC, etc. And I still wonder if this is going to roll back over again in the not too distant future. I think some of what we're seeing here hasn't quite finished. Some of the potential movement. We do have an untouched weekly pivot now that's sitting below, which might be a little draw, but bigger picture, yes, we've got the high lows, higher highs. I'm just in the much bigger picture, I'm just wondering whether whether this retrace that we're seeing going across these lows here is actually coming around here going to be sustainable. I just get the feeling at some point it's going to weaken off. Whether it'll be this week on a quieter bit of news, no impact, we'll see. But for now, in the midst of things not really giving me too much of a clue which way it's going, it actually broke through the trend, the descending trend here, but it's walked out of its sideward. It really doesn't matter and make too much difference. In fact, it's almost trying to put trying to break through the daily pivot. Maybe a break of that daily pivot would signify further upside, but it's running pretty sideways at the moment. It's not giving me the best signals on the higher time frames. The pound bouncing as well last week. Is this going to continue through? We had that slightly more dovish meeting. Again, I'm sort of scratching the head there. We've got we'll have to see the flash services out and manufacturing out later in the week for these, as we will for many of the major currencies. It's whether it can hang on at the moment. Looking down the time frames, well, we've sort of got this retracement going on here. Actually, I think I'll pull this, get rid of this, because it's only making more noise on the screen. We have the weekly pivot below. Perhaps this is going to roll back a tad more. It's 1 minute it was looking bullish on this bar, next minute it's looking quite bearish. So that weekly pivot might be a draw. We might even see a bit more of a downside. We do have the trend line coming up behind that though. It's in a sideward chop at the moment. Effectively, it's in a bigger wedge on the bigger time frames. It may be prudent just to wait and see how it shows its hand. It could go either way at the moment that we're looking at this chart. So again, lacking in clarity. The one thing that we can say is the yen's been pushing up, and even this morning, whilst everything else is, well, perhaps weakening a little bit, this is certainly weakening. We do have a weekly pivot below. If it does start selling off, that would be a point that I would look to be buying into as opposed to anything else. The dollar, still think the dollar will push up further against the yen at the moment. It's got some reasonable scope coming out to the bigger time frames. We've broken through the key. This is a monthly time frame, but I was just looking for the key highs, and we pushed through the previous ones there this month so far. Okay, it's a live bar, but it does look like it's got further upside to come. Okay, that's the yen. Let's just calm down the time frames a little bit more on that, but yeah, it's again a bit of a wedge pattern, and it's probably a case of waiting for the upside to be broken at the moment. Okay, it's the yen. Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar has been showing some strength. Hasn't quite got back to where it was a week or two ago, two even. It's doing okay. Today's a bit of a sell-off day at the moment. It's down a little bit, but this is one, if we start seeing a bit sort of risk off a little bit more, we'll see catching the bounce a little bit further. It's not necessarily the easiest one to get into for targets, etc. Just finding a bit of support off its 60-minute 50. That might be enough this morning. Look at the break of the highs there and see if it will push further. But yeah, it is a bullish pairing, but it's whether or not you can get on for the ride at the moment. Another one that's been quite bullish is the Canadian dollar. This is US dollar Canadian. So the US dollar falling against the Canadian here. Canadian just coming through, slowing up at the end of the week there, and the momentum coming out a little bit, which we would expect. You see these sort of solid old bars here, and they're gradually getting a little bit smaller, but I'm looking at this thinking, well, there's potential for a continuation. Now it could come all the way back to its weekly pivot sitting at 26.88 sort of area. Be quite a nice point to be looking for the short. Now, one thing to bear in mind with this pairing is we've been sitting in quite a range, a near-term range, and it's sort of pretty close to the bottom of that. It might just break through the previous low there. It's got its monthly S1 below, which could provide some support. If it starts breaking through that area though, then we're looking over here for next sort of levels of support, and the S2 comes with it. So there's support below, and which could in turn become targets, but I quite like the target of the lows there, which is just fractionally before that S2. But let's see what it does. As I say, the momentum is coming out into Friday. And watch for the just a little fake out, and for it to bounce back up again. Right, that's a CAD. Let's look at the commodities. So commodity wise here, so gold, just looking a little bit soft there, certainly on Friday, selling off a tad more. It does have its weekly pivot just fractionally above, which could provide some resistance along with that 34 moving average and the 21 that's just fractionally below it. So there's a whole lot of confluence around that area, which might stop the any further rally for a moment. Looking at the lower time frames here, and you can see the lower highs, lower lows through there. That's just a sign of weakness at the moment overall. So I haven't really got a short I mean, the short may have come from its weekly pivot itself, but haven't really got a possible short entry. Could be across from the low here. Let's see if I can draw something on. It messes me around a little bit. I have to start drawing. Got a strange patch on my chart. Let's just move that across. Don't know what causes it, but it causes it. There we go. So I'm sort of looking at that trend line across there, thinking, well, if it does break down, well, it's quite neat from there, looking down towards the S1, which would then still be in this channel that's running south, running downwards. Okay, just one moment, sorry. Okay, that's gold. Let's have a look at oil. Oil pushing, continuing to push up. Higher lows, higher highs through here. Certainly looking at oil's got more upside again. It's broken through. Sorry, I'm just looking. Let's just go from the bigger time frame here. This is the first look at the higher time frames here. It's getting quite a bounce off of the weekly pivot there, and it really does look like it's got further upside. Let's just get that noise off there. Does look like it's got further upside at the moment. A retracement would be necessary. As ever, I look at this in terms of trading times. I look to trade it later in the day, sort of 2 o'clock ish. Just it's Western Texas, it's a US market. It just seems to move better then, give me better opportunities. So let's see what's happening. But it could just keep on going at the moment. There certainly seems to be a little bit of risk off in the markets, and the money's running sort of towards away from some of these and maybe pushing up further. Morning. Okay, sorry, just looking. Okay, just stepping back there on gold. Then someone just asked me about the cotton analysis. I'm going to do it in the room later. Just come into the room and I'll run through it there. You should have the details, and I'll run through it. Right, because I'll run through it every Monday. Right, moving on then. Sorry, let's just switch across, see if you can. Here we go. Let's move away from Forex. Don't know what I'm doing in there. Let's just have a look at the weekend over the crypto markets and come off this hourly chart. Would be good. Let's have a look a bit bigger chart. Woohoo! Yeah, that was an up and down time. Okay. So yesterday, well, Saturday up, Sunday down. Pretty common seems it. The rallies happen on the Saturday and get sold back on the Sunday as this profit taking maybe. There is a slight drift on Bitcoin now. He's getting this sort of, I don't know, it just looks like it's maybe that's fractionally higher low that's giving me the visual, but it's still much in the wedge. Still looking for the break of 46 to be bullish on it, and it's choppy. Where to get in from here? Well, patience is the game. Continuing to be the game. Ethereum, okay, it broke its trend line there. It's come back and found support into that level and seems to be moving off here. The thing is, the resistance is not. I mean, you've got quite a lot of resistance around these prior highs here and just above here. So it'd probably be prudent waiting a bit longer unless you're really aggressive into it with a potential add-in. Ripple is, again, I've mentioned it on Bitcoin, but this is much clearer. The higher lows, higher highs coming through on here seem to be pushing up a little bit more. It is one of the uglier charts in terms of when it sells pretty quickly, but at the moment it looks a little bit more bullish. Cardano, I'm not really looking. I say not really looking. I think it's still. Yep, it's got its short-term move here. Perhaps it could push up. It's still on. Oh, I don't know. I think it might touch that monthly pivot in originally, but looking like it's got potential. Why am I looking there? It's just a quick flick through the others. BNB. Again, following largely the Bitcoin run here. Can't get overly bullish on any of these yet, but there is the scope. Okay, Christina, we will do. Yep. FTM. Just looking here, then. Still looking very soft. Okay, there's not much. It's still a patience game. In summary, with the crypto side of things, maybe a bit of patience this morning with currencies. Looking elsewhere, the indexes, indices, CSI 300 just off this morning. Overnight, they've just come off slightly. Still Nikkei still pushing up here, but I think this might be short-lived. What time is it? It's just 8 o'clock. The FTSE's just opened fractionally up on the morning, but we're looking at the European markets. They're all down slightly, so this might just follow suit the futures of other markets at least. Sorry, I'll just come back to that FTSE. I was saying this last week, of all the equity markets, it does seem to be the one that's getting some of the better moves to the upside when things are going well. Whereas we've had consolidation in the likes of the DAX here, particularly last Thursday, Friday. It's just consolidating rather than really making more ground to the upside. Again, here we're just finding resistance into the 21 at the moment, 34, beg your pardon, at the moment, and just holding things back. The CAC, same thing here, just consolidation, not really pushing through. Looking across the pond, the S&Ps. S&Ps a little bit more like it. It's the futures are down at the moment. As I said, I won't be surprised with the markets running at the moment. They don't have a little retrace at the moment. Nasdaq, same thing. At least these have been pushing up a bit more like the FTSE. FTSE and the American market seem a little bit more in tune, as has the Dow Jones here. It could be that we're going to see a little bit more upside to these. I still think there's a risk problem here, and the long-term interest rate will affect the markets and soften them. Finishing off with the Nifty 50. Well, let's put down a bearish engulfing bar there, quite a solid so far today. Still running at the moment, but it's got that big gap below, and I do wonder if that will be quite a target for some of the traders. So it's patience. It's looking a bit soft on some of the markets. As I say, I think this sort of risk on, risk off. It's sort of, there's obviously the Ukraine situation still majoring the news. It doesn't look like there's peace deals are getting any closer, and that puts the risk back on. Just looking at the bond market, okay, they've been probably sold off a little bit this morning. Yields are increasing, which suggests bonds are being sold, so it doesn't look quite the full story, or showing the full story across the markets. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to call it a morning on here. I'll catch some of you in the trading room. Take care. Bye for now. Right.